How's it going, guys? Welcome to today's edition of Wristband Wisdom, where I will be talking about World Pride Fest happening in Washington, D.C. this weekend. From the beginning of starting this channel, I always wanted to bring on veterans in the space who had more experience than I do, who have given me advice over the years to make the most out of my experiences. Today I'm excited to bring somebody on who is very special to my heart. He is a 35-year-old veteran festival goer, an 18-year-old military veteran still active in the U.S. Army, who served 2 tours of duty in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and in a former life he was a flight attendant, so he is somebody that I not only trust with festival advice, but also with my life. In addition to his years of service as a military veteran and festival attendee, Bryan is also a member of the gay community in DC. So combined with his EDM knowledge as well as his knowledge of the gay community in DC, he was the perfect person to bring on for this video. So with all of that said, I'm gonna get right to it and roll the intro.
Hit the tempo. All my people strapping, we about to take control. The rhythm, the vibe, that's when you know it's time to get right. Hit the tempo. All my people strapping, we about to take control. The rhythm, the vibe, that's when you know it's time to get right. Hit the tempo. Just do what you do, what you do, what you do, what you do. Hit the tempo. That's what's for you, it's for you, it's for you, it's for you.
Hello everyone, my name is Peyton Brailsford. Welcome to my channel where I cover all things live music events, giving you the tips and tricks to make the most out of your experiences. Today we have a very special topic where we're going to be talking about World Pride Fest, and I'm joined by an immensely special guest to me, my good friend Bryan LaMadrid. He is a 35-year-old veteran raver, a military veteran, and a DC gay, so he is very excited to talk about World Pride Fest this weekend. Like many of my friends in the scene, we actually met through a festival. Our dear friends Brandon and Jen paired us up in an RV for EDC Las Vegas 2021. We also happen to both live in Washington, D.C., so it was really just a perfect mix for both of us to enjoy hanging out and going to shows when we got back home. So, Bryan, with all that said, I'm going to stop talking. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, you just got back from Project Glowfest in DC, so how was it?
It was good. I think this was my third Project Glow. And for a parking lot rave, or a parking lot festival, put on by Insomniac, I think it was a pretty good value for what we paid for it. A little cold the first day. It's been unseasonably cooler, unfortunately, and of course, I think every glow it rains in some capacity, and so the beginning of Saturday it rains a little bit. We weren't there yet, but it kind of just set the tone for Saturday to be a little more chilly, and then Sunday was pretty perfect. So I had a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was sad not to be there. For those watching, I did go to the first 3 years of Project Glow. Bryan and I got to hang out every single one of those years. It was always a blast. And so it was a huge bummer not to be there. It was sad to see the weather didn't hold out for you guys on Saturday, but I feel like Project Glow at this point is just sort of cursed with that, so nothing you can really do there. But yeah, I was thrilled to see that it still turned out well, that there was a beautiful Sunday, as is tradition. Saturday rains, Sunday is beautiful. So yeah, it's just another great year. It felt like they put more juice into the lineup, put more juice into the production, and so was glad to hear not only from you but from other friends who went that it all seemed like it panned out. So yeah, awesome. Very happy for that. So let's get into today's topic. Really want to spend our time just talking about how Project Glowfest is going to be different from World Pride Fest. If folks saw my Project Glowfest video that I put out last week, that really gave you all of the tips and tricks that you would need kind of before, during, and after your festival. And because World Pride Fest is held on the exact same location as Project Glowfest. They're using the exact same stage setup. Much of that advice is going to remain exactly the same. So we really just want to dig into how it's going to feel similar, but really how it's going to feel different, and just what the experience is going to be overall. So
Cool.
all that sound good, Bryan?
Yep, sounds good.
Beautiful. All right. So first, I just want to talk about kind of pride in general. So for either the straights like me who aren't, well imbued into the gay community, or just for folks who are going to be coming to DC who are part of the LGBTQ community, sort of what is pride? Why is it important? What does it mean to the community? And just what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, so like a lot of other, metro um, locations or cities, DC has a Pride every year, where we get together in June. Usually it's, I think, the first or second week of June. And personally, it's a celebration of what's come before us and the fight that has been fought so far. Um, the people that protested and got us to where we are today. Also, huge community, huge events in history that have affected the community, like the HIV/AIDS crisis, and the many gay community members, gay men who have passed away in I guess the movement and the fight to find a cure for HIV. Um, and then also, a celebration of how far we've come, but also like a recognition of the fight that we still have. And I think it's a little controversial, but there's still a lot of work to be done, especially for the trans community and the current movement to take away rights from the LGBTQ community. So while we are here celebrating, how far we've come, and things like gay marriage and stuff like that, it's also a reminder and a recognition of the fight that we still have yet, to fight, basically. And personally for me, I'm an 18-year veteran. I'm still serving, but the first 7 years of my service was under Joe Nassau. So that's like my own personal story and my own personal thing with pride. I have a lot of pride in my service, and deploying to both Iraq and Afghanistan under Joe Nassau was hugely impactful to me, and hurtful, but we've come so far, and we have open service now, and I'm still serving, obviously. So that's something that I usually celebrate when it comes to Pride. But like I said, there's still a lot of work to be done. And so while we're here and we're out and we're proud and we're celebrating that, we're also gearing up to remind everybody that the rights that we've got need to be defended, and there's still a lot of fight left to fight.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing your own story. I appreciate you bringing up trans rights because I think it goes to highlight really the intersectionalism between Pride that can be lost on people. It's not just about gay people, lesbians, but it incorporates trans people, it incorporates non-binary people, gender fluid people, all sorts of things under the spectrum. I think Pride for me as an ally has been very special over the years just to see as, you know, LGBTQ rights have come more to the forefront, being able to see my friends act and live and dance more liberated, be their authentic selves in these spaces has been huge. So that's what I really appreciate about Pride. It's just great to see, people in the space and the community be able to live their best lives. So yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So let's get into location. Why DC for World Pride, Brian? Especially when there's other gay cities out there. There's San Francisco. You could go to New York City. Why DC for Pride?
Well, I think I kind of started to touch on this on with your last question, but every year we have just a normal Pride celebration, and DC is such a gay friendly city. I think the one of the sayings that gets thrown out there that catches people by surprise is that DC is the gayest city in the United States when it's measured per capita. DC is only so big, so it's not like New York City or San Francisco. But when you look at the population of DC and who identifies in the LGBTQ community, uh, it is the highest in all of the United States, and so we take that with pride, and or we have a lot of pride in that. DC is filled with a lot of vibrant communities. There's a lot of things to do in DC. It is the seat of the federal government. It is our nation's capital, and so you have a lot of really cool venues and sites to see in DC. You have the National Mall, you have the Washington Monument, you have the Lincoln Monument, you have all the Smithsonians, you have the U.S. Capitol, you have the White House, you have the Kennedy Center, you have the National Cathedral, you have all of these different, all these things to do, all of these places to go, and regardless of administration that is here in currently in DC. DC is a vibrant, living, breathing community that's not just the federal government. There are many neighborhoods. There are many people that live in DC that make up what makes DC special and what makes DC a great city to host World Pride. And I'm not a spokesman for World Pride. I am not involved with World Pride. I am just somebody who is here that lives in DC. I've been a resident of DC going on for 10 years. And I call it home. And so when I see that DC was selected as World Pride, which only happens every couple of years, I'm not sure. I think some of the years got thrown off with COVID, and I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was perfect. It would kind of highlight what makes DC special as our nation's capital, and I'm really excited to see everything that the organization has done to show off our city. But I can share from a personal viewpoint, as somebody who identifies in the LGBT community that lives in DC and is a resident of DC. We have so much to share and be prideful for, and I know a lot of us are really excited to show the city off to the world, and host World Pride.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Want to also shift a little bit. Let's talk about just nightlife culture in DC. I think, you covered so beautifully why DC is an amazing city just to host World Pride in general. But I think, you and I have experienced firsthand just how welcoming, how open the nightlife scene is in particular to the gay community in DC. I often tell people when I share with folks who don't live in DC that, DC is the gayest city in the country per capita, and they're surprised. The first example that I always give is the number of times we've gone to Echo Stage together, and I am the singular straight in a sea of shirtless gay men. And so, just if you could expand on that a little bit, and why the nightlife scene in DC is so welcoming and so open to the gay community, and just kind of what that means to you.
Well, I think that, separate from just the gay nightlife, right? Like, because we're talking about the EDM scene. I think the EDM community, like electronic music community in general in DC, is very open and accepting, and I think their spaces reflect that. I know Echo Stage, like venues like Echo Stage, Soundcheck, Flash, they go through to great lengths to make sure that their spaces are open, welcoming, and accepting for the LGBTQ plus community. And like you said, there's been times, depending upon the DJ, there's times when we'll show up and I might be the only gay person there. No, I don't think that's ever happened, but maybe a few gays that are there,
Yep.
and then you like show up to some shows at Echo Stage, like I think when Purple Disco Machine was here, like that was the gayest straight event, technically straight event that I've ever seen at Echo Stage. I think the crowd was probably 90% gay, shirtless gay men dancing. But regardless, I think if you go to Soundcheck, if you go to Echo Stage and the many other EDM venues that we have here, technically, those shows are, it's not labeled gay, it's not labeled LGBTQ, it's not a pride event, it's just a show. And but that doesn't really mean that gays aren't welcome, and in fact, it's the opposite. Gays are very welcome. And I've never felt afraid to go to a show at Soundcheck or Echo Stage or any other show, any other venue. And I've always been welcomed and accepted, and regardless if I want to, enjoy the show in a hoodie and shorts, or if I'm feeling a little more feral and I'm dancing around in short shorts and shirtless. It's always been super accepting, and I think the venues reflect the type of people and community that exists in DC. And so it wouldn't be like that without the people.
Yeah, I think you said it best, and you took my very next thought with what you said at the end there. And it truly is the people in the community in DC that make that. It is such just a vibrant and diverse community overall that, it's a natural extension that's also felt by the LGBTQ community. So yeah, I think that's perfectly said. Um, so the other element with DC this year that makes World Pride kind of perfect is the fact that Project Glow is in its fourth year. It's a very successful festival. And by moving the dates of Project Glow, they were able to kind of pair that with back-to-back weekends with World Pride. So of course, the RFK Festival grounds get to be completely reused for World Pride. They get to use the same stage setup. And so for folks who are watching, if you're on Reddit, if you were in the Project Glow subreddit, I shared a meme that I put together after they dropped the World Pride map, because it was the exact same map as the Project Glow Fest map. They just changed the colors, they changed the labeling, changed the theming, and of course that was to be expected. And so it drew the ire of a few Reddit commenters. No surprise, that's usually how Reddit goes. But I think that there's one comment that really serves as a perfect transition here to talk about the experience and talk about the differences between Project Glow Fest and World Pride Fest. And comes from commenter Reddit user cousin0123, who responded to my meme by saying, "Well, yeah, that's why they moved Project Glow back a month so they could save on the setup costs. But what's the difference between the two events, anyways? One is going to have a stage with a group of shirtless male dancers in fetish gear, and the other is World Pride Fest." So, Brian, let's speak to it. How is World Pride Fest going to feel different from Project Glow, given that Project Glow is already such a gay-friendly festival, given that it is on the same grounds, using the same stages? How
Yeah.
is it going to feel different? How's the energy of the crowd going to be different? And how might it feel the same?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first things that we saw as, I guess, customers, as festival goers that are going to both events was, wow, it's just basically the same layout.
Yeah,
Um, I have no insider knowledge whatsoever. I'm just a customer, I guess. I'm just a festival goer. But I think they've renamed the stages. So I think like with Pride, with the Pride Festival, there's the Dreamland stage, the Unity stage, the Planet Pride stage, and those are different than what Project Glow was. Um, I would hope. I have no idea if they're going to do this or not, but it seems like from the layout or from the set times and locations that a lot of the vocal artists are going to be at the Dreamland stage, which was kind of like the main stage during Project Glow. And then a lot of the EDM artists and DJs are going to be at the Planet Pride stage, which is actually like I like that stage better. It's more like it's a one stage, but it kind of reminds me of like a circuit grounds at EDC where there's like a bunch of panels in different places and lights in between panels. And
yeah,
whereas the Dreamland stage, it was just like one big screen and a screen in the back, right?
right.
So um, so I would hope that maybe they do maybe make a couple changes between last weekend and this weekend to prepare for the World Pride Festival. A lot of the vocal artists are going to be at the Dreamland stage. So my hope would be, now I have very low expectations, but my hope would be maybe they would build out the stage a little more to create maybe like a small walkway that the vocal artist can perform on, or something like that. I'm not sure if that's even a consideration, but I would hope that they do something like that. Now, if they just keep everything the same, then I think it's still a good setup. Um, it's not all purely EDM. That's a big change. We have J Lo, we have Troye Sivan, um, uh, we have a bunch of drag artists. We have
Well, yeah, so I want to pause you there real quick because looking at the map, there's one thing aside from just stages being relabeled. There's one thing that's on the World Pride Fest map that's not on the Project Glow map, and that's the drag district. So let's just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of self-explanatory, and I think it's going to be drag centric, and I think there's going to be performers there. And drag is a really big part of the gay community or the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
RuPaul is doing a DJ set, and we have Sasha
Yep.
Colby coming. Now, Sasha Colby, I think, is actually going to be performing at one of the big stages. She's not going to be at the Drag District. Um, but uh, but that's going to be an area that I think I'm not sure if it's going to be maybe like just an area to perform, or maybe they're going to have some vendors that are, I have no idea what to expect.
Sure.
But I think it's going to, I feel like it's just going to be an area that is just going to be very themed towards drag. And I'm really excited to see what they do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that didn't exist at Project Low.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's going to be a really unique element for attendees to look forward to if they've gone to both Project Glow and are now going to World Pride Fest.
Yeah.
Um, I think going down the list here, kind of looking at the lineup, want to talk about some other artists that you might be excited for. I know one that's on the lineup that we've both seen. We got to see last year at Electric Forest Pride Party, which is Slater. I feel like they're an institution at different Pride events like this. You mentioned RuPaul. I've watched a couple seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race, really enjoy it. I would be very stoked to see that DJ set. Paris Hilton. Let's talk about that. How do you feel about Paris Hilton on the lineup?
I've never seen her live. Is she? I'm not a Paris Hilton fan. Does she do vocals? I don't even know.
I
I know
don't I
she
don't know.
DJs. I know she DJs because didn't she DJ at Tomorrowland? Um,
Uh, I'm not quite sure, but Brian, does she DJ? I think
she
that's
does.
the real question here. Does she
Um,
DJ or
I
does she
think she
press play?
does. I think she's an icon, I guess. I think the gays will go out and see her and support her. Um, you know, I mean, I'm not sure. She's a yeah.
No, no,
I
no
don't
bullshit. All respect to
I don't see
Paris.
her music out. So, but uh, if she can, cultivate a vibe at the festival, I'm sure she'll be a success.
Absolutely. Yeah. No real disrespect to Paris. Just had to stir the pot with that one. It's always
Yeah.
a talking point within the EDM community. Troye Sivan, I'm just coming off Coachella. I got to see Charlie XCX perform live for the first time. It was my first taste of Brat energy. She brought Troye Sivan out. They had a really great duet for one of their songs together, so I'm sure that'll be a fun one. I'd bring up Troye Sivan, and there's also, Jennifer Lopez, like you mentioned, and some other vocalists. And I bring those up because I know we were talking before this call, and you mentioned the difference in ticket prices
Yeah.
between Project Glow and World Pride Fest. And so, if why don't you just talk a little bit about like, the difference in what you paid for each and maybe what is driving that, whether it's potentially some of those bigger vocal acts like a J-Lo or a Troye Sivan, or whether it's coming potentially from other production areas like the drag district that they're adding.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I know ticket prices were much more cheap for Project Low than for World Pride. I think my World Pride ticket was like 250 or something like that. But then like Project Low, I bought it resale from somebody, so I got it actually a little cheaper. I paid like 120 for it, but I think like tickets were going for like 100, 120, 140 depending upon when you got it. So uh we did have big names at Project Glow, but they were all EDM, and I'm not somebody that has like any knowledge on what it costs to book EDM artists versus other types of artists. But I think, booking, these vocal artists probably, it's a much more well-rounded, I guess, lineup, right? You have J-Lo, which I'm sure she's not cheap. At all, but you have J-Lo, you have some big EDM acts like Purple Disco and Zed, and then you have like Kim Petras, you have like Troye Sivan, you have all these vocalists, so and then on top of that do have all of these like drag artists too, and they're obviously going to be compensated for their time there. So and then I don't really talk much. Or you have Hala, which I think she's really caught fire recently. Like I don't, you kind of know, you know, when you have EDM artists and you have the vocalists that sing the lyrics to these EDM songs that we listen to, a lot of times you don't really know who's doing the vocals, right? A lot of times
Yeah.
people don't know who, but like she's become so well known, and she's so talented that I'm sure that she's being compensated pretty well, and I'm very excited to see her. And then you have like circuit DJs. We haven't really touched on circuit parties, but you have these like gay party specific DJs that are that are very well known in the community that I'm sure get compensated well. So I think it make it it, I kind of can understand why the World Pride Festival ticket would be more expensive than Project Low.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do want to touch on, because you did bring up circuit parties, we haven't talked about that. One thing that you've taught me many things about the gay community over the years now. But it's that circuit it's not just the party, but it's also really sort of its own genre of music. So how does that kind of differ from what you might like hear at a typical rave?
Well, man, circuit parties. Like
We're
by touching on this, I'll probably, if you have any gays that
we're gonna tiptoe through this one for sure.
yeah. So circuit parties, for those that don't know, and I'm just gonna lightly touch on this. I'm not gonna go into dive deep, but it's basically a large scale gay dance party. And it's electronic music that a DJ spins. A lot of circuit DJs are like tropical house. But you really do get a lot of different types of music that you hear. I'm not going to kind of go into like the beats, but it's also very repetitive. And but the best way that I can describe the difference between a circuit party and maybe like a EDM show or a festival is like the vibe that you have when you walk in, right? Like I feel like a circuit party is much more of like a club atmosphere where people are facing each other, they're socializing, they're talking, they are absolutely dancing and enjoying the music, but they also might be enjoying themselves too. And whereas like a show or a festival, it is music centric. Everybody's kind of facing the stage for the most part, and they're there to see like the DJ. Now there are big DJs in the circuit scene, and then also just to lightly touch on, a lot of circuit parties tend to be charity events that raise money, like proceeds from the profit go to HIV research or just different charity organizations. And so it's kind of like a winter party in Miami is a good example of like they put on a great, huge, large scale production of big huge dance party, and you pay to go to this dance party and you get a lot out of it and you have a great time, and you know that the money that you're paying is also going towards a good purpose. And
Yeah,
so yeah, so that's kind of like a background of my version of a background of circuit parties. You can do a whole nother podcast on that. And people do, the gays do.
yeah,
Um, but there will be a couple of circuit DJs there, some big ones actually. I think Saji Kadiv, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is actually the first circuit DJ that I ever saw in Barcelona when I stumbled upon my first circuit party. Will be there, I believe. Let me see here. I'm pretty sure I saw his name. Um, and and so those are gay centric events. Um, yeah, I don't know
yeah.
how to other
No,
well, it's kind of I don't want to say that the music is very repetitive. It's very lyricy. It's very
yeah,
remixes of pop music for the most part. You do have a couple of DJs out there that have created or produced their own music. Like I think Dan Slater is one of them, where he's released his own music. But a lot of circuit DJs is it's just like remixes of like really famous, you know, pop music that the gays like. And it's
yeah,
a lot of times uplifting, and like gay anthems. And so it's usually a fun time, and it's very clubby versus like a festival or an EDM show.
yeah. Um, I think when we get off this call, you're going to have to tell me about that circuit party you stumbled into in Barcelona. We'll talk about that later.
That is a long story.
An offline conversation for
Yeah.
another day. Just to wrap up talking about the experience, who are you absolutely most excited to see? Who are your top artists for the weekend?
I am excited to see there's a couple. I have a local DJ that I would see at Flash often, um, who recently moved to a different city, I think to the West Coast. His name is DJ Twin. He is so talented, and whenever I see him perform, I definitely want to get out and see him perform. I would see him at Flash. Flash has every so often Flash will have a gay night, and he was like one of the resident DJs for that night, and I would always seek out the set like the time that he was performing because I would be on the dance floor and he's kind of like a circuit DJ, but he brings in so much other types of EDM in there, and sometimes like you'll like there was a while where I would go to a lot of Above and Beyond shows, and like he I was at one of his shows, and Above and Beyond just released like a new song or something like that, and he got it like a much more dancey version of that song into like a remixed version of that song into his set, and I was living on the dance floor. I was vibing so much, and I'm just so impressed by him. So he's gonna be there on Friday. I'm definitely looking forward to like the standard like EDM sets. So like Galantis, Zed are on my to-do. I might go and see J-Lo for just a little bit. But I know one of the big conflicts is Zed's gonna be at Planet Pride and Jennifer Lopez is gonna be at Dreamland. And so I might, pop in to see J-Lo for a little bit, but go back to Zed because Zed's probably gonna be a little bit more of my speed.
Yep.
Um, let's see here. Um, Excited for Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown is going to be there.
I didn't
And
realize that.
yeah, he's a little earlier in the day. He's actually my first set time, like my first like I kind of told my friends, I'm like, okay, we need to be in by 3:30, which means we need to leave the house by 2:30, which means we need to be pre-gaming by like 1 because I want to get, and these things never go according to plan. So I've kind of worked in an extra 15 minutes in there, but I want to be in the festival by 3:30 so that I can see Spencer Brown come on at 3:45.
Yeah.
Spencer Brown, I've seen Spencer Brown, first time I saw Spencer Brown was at EDC, but I think like 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2018.
Yeah.
Um, he's family, he's gay, and he's also performed on the Atlantis cruise. I go on the Atlantis gay cruises often, and he's performed, and he's done some really beautiful sets. So I'm looking forward to that. And then on Saturday, I'm looking forward to Kim Petras. Um, Another big conflict is Purple Disco Machine versus Troye Sivan.
Yeah.
Obviously, for obvious reasons. And I think I might do the same thing. I might kind of split half and half. Now, if I'm with a group, so if we end up, not um, just picking one, I also get pretty lazy, and these stages get really packed, especially in GA. That was one thing that with Project Glow, it there's a lot of choke points, and I felt like it was really hard to move. And so there was a couple of times where I wanted to see a DJ at a different stage, and it's so close. It's right there. It's a parking lot. But because there was just so many people, we just kind of nixed it, and we are like, we're just gonna stand here and vibe
Okay.
because it was so hard to move sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so and then Sophie Tucker on Sunday,
Yeah.
it
There's so many names on this lineup. Like you mentioned Spencer Brown. Like I forgot he was tucked there in the undercard. And then yeah, Sophie Tucker, which is high on the mid card for Saturday. Somehow overlooked that as well.
And
Yeah.
Hayla,
There's
like I'm so excited for Hayla. Like I mean that's we're gonna get some of the big hits I feel like with her. Because she's done the vocals for so many of like John Summit songs.
yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
get some of them, even though John Summit's not going himself.
Yeah, yeah, this is a phenomenal lineup, you guys. Even if I wish I were still living in DC, I definitely would have gone both weekends with this lineup. So you really just can't miss with this one. So,
Yeah, I
um,
mean, to this day, I still have never had a shoulder ride. And I feel like this would have been an excellent opportunity to finally get a shoulder ride from you. But
Yeah,
next,
for anyone who doesn't know, I give world-class professional level shoulder rides. So if
yes.
you ever see me at a festival, don't ask me for one. Let me offer them to you because I do get tired. But yeah, yeah. So next fest we go to, Brian, you're getting a shoulder ride.
Fingers crossed.
Um, all right. So with an incredible lineup for the weekend in store, that also means that there's incredible pre-parties as well as after parties in store. Club Glow has an absolutely stacked lineup at both Soundcheck as well as Echo Stage, but they're also promoting Karma as a venue this year. So I just wanted to kind of go through each of these parties with you, and I figured we could talk about which ones we would be excited for if we were attending. We could attend all of them. I know you'll be able to attend some of them in person. I know that you're still making some decisions on which ones you might be attending. So yeah, we can just kind of hammer through some of these.
Yeah.
But starting with Soundcheck on Thursday, June 5th, you've got the pre-party with it's the GPS pre-party with Junyo, and Eduardo OMG. So do you know either of these artists, Brian?
No.
Me either,
I
unfortunately.
think
So
this might be a gay brand. I'm not sure. A great label or a like Kinetic or Insomniac or whatever. I think GPS might be. So it might be just gay circuit DJs. I am honestly not sure. I would have to Google them.
got it. Yeah. So folks, if you're familiar, that's great. Leave a comment down below if we're just being stupid and we're missing out on something. But if you're also not familiar, it could be a great night to check out some music that you've never heard before. So highly encourage that. Moving on to Friday, June 6th. This is one that I would legitimately be very excited for. Soundcheck has Patrick Mason and special guests. I'm not sure who special guests are, but you could get me through the door just for Patrick Mason alone. Brian, I'm assuming you're familiar, but are you familiar with Patrick Mason?
I'm not. But I mean, I'd vibe. Now that's Friday. I'm not doing any afters on Friday. Gotta conserve the legs. But I mean, there's been many times where you've said, "Come see this artist," and I didn't know that person, and when we vibed. So
My friends need to learn to trust my opinions more. So Patrick Mason, for the unfamiliar, is an amazing techno artist. I think, he plays a mix of hard techno, as well as some other within the techno umbrella. But I think what he's really known for are some of his dance moves while he's on stage. He's just really constantly, going over the top with things, really bringing the full level of entertainment. And so at a venue like Soundcheck, where you can really kind of get up and close and personal with the DJs to a certain extent in that kind of smaller club space, it's really just going to be perfect to have him front and center on stage, kind of wowing the crowd. So yeah, so that's one that I highly recommend. I would really love to check that one out if I were in DC. Um, Looking ahead towards Saturday, June 7th. So this is where we're getting into the after parties now with Soundcheck. The first one hosted by Poof Doof. Have you ever heard of Poof Doof, Brian? This one's also new to me, but I think it's got to be a name to know in the scene because of their lineup that they have. So they've got Coco and Breezy as well as Annabelle England on that lineup. So that's going to be some incredible house vibes. Annabelle England is going to deliver some really great vocals. And then Coco and Breezy, if you like really vibey, chill house music infused with a little R&B, they just got back from Coachella recently in April, where they played the Quasar stage, and they had Kalina Sanders come up on stage with them. So they're really incredible. They've got some amazing vibes. That's one that I would love to check out. Brian, you a Coco and Breezy fan?
haven't seen.
I kind of knew how you were going to answer that one. And then last up for Soundcheck, the Sunday after party. So this will be the final after party to close out the weekend on June 8th. You have the Fem House after party. And, as I look at everything on this lineup, there's one other show that we'll get to that's really, it's neck and neck for being tied for first of these parties for the weekend. But the Fem House party, which has Murph and Bridget, Bridget I know is a local DJ. She plays a lot of new Androids events. She's kind of on their roster as an opener. You've got Baby Weight, who is just an absolute DC powerhouse. They've played festivals and venues all over the world. They're absolutely incredible. Trans DJ in the space, so absolutely go support Baby
They
Weight.
were they were at Glow, I think the past 2 or 3 years, but they were at Glow
Yep.
this year too. So they attract a loyal following.
Absolutely. Yeah, we love DJ Babyweight in this video. So DJ Babyweight, if you're watching, we love your work. And then headliner TBA. Now, headliner TBA for a Femme House after party to close out the weekend of World Pride. Now, call me crazy, Brian. But if I had a hunch, I would have to say that that would be LPGOB playing that after party. What would you say about that?
I think that would be a great fit. I don't know why it hasn't been announced yet. Also, no insider knowledge. I think that's just us talking, but it would make sense that that would be the headliner.
I think it's the best bet. I think it's what makes sense. I think, they're probably keeping her off the lineup because of some ticket sales. But yeah, she's playing World Pride Fest. That was one name that I didn't mention on the lineup because I was saving it for this portion of the discussion. For folks who don't know, LPGOB, one of my top favorite artists. Her music is beautiful. She's a beautiful human being. I had the pleasure of being able to meet her in person on Groove Cruise. So, LPGOB, very special place in my heart. But yeah, because of that, because of the rest of the lineup with Baby Wait, with Bridget also being a local, the Femme House after party is where I would absolutely be on Sunday.
Yeah.
No question. All right. So now let's get into Echo Stage. Do you want to talk about Echo Stage's Thursday pre-party? Because I know that's one that you're excited for.
Well, I mean it's Utopia, it's Zed, so very standard. I think big name, and Zed is again DJing on Friday, so it makes sense. I think especially with Project Glow, you see a lot of headliners or DJs that perform at the festival doing pre or after parties at Echo Stage and such. So so you have Zed on Thursday. I don't have tickets, but I'm off Friday, obviously for the festival. So that's a possible uh ticket purchase that I might make after a couple of drinks on Thursday night after I go to the Nats Night Out game. Um, but yeah, so you have Zed on Thursday at Echo Stage, and then you have Planet Pride, which has Galantis and Joel Corey, and Galantis and Joel Corey aren't necessarily like gay DJs, but Planet Pride, I think is it's like a party concept or a label or something like that. So it's obviously like kind of like John Summit headlined something for Pride last year. I think it was last year in New York City. Um,
Yeah.
but they are putting on an EDM show Friday nights.
And I'm just gonna say, Joel Corey, he may not be a gay DJ himself, but I guarantee you, all the gays love Joel
Yeah,
Corey. And I've got to say,
yeah.
again on Groove Cruise, had the pleasure of running into Joel Corey. I got to work out next to him in the gym, and I've got to say, when Joel Corey takes his shirt off, even I become a little bit gay.
Yeah.
So makes sense why they booked him for Planet Pride. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
solid call there.
Galactus is also gay friendly, super gay friendly. I know they've done shows. The first and only time I've seen Galantis twice, but the first time I've seen Galantis, they were actually the guest EDM DJ on the Atlantis Gay Cruise.
Ah,
Back
okay.
when they were still two people, two DJs, and they both showed up and they did a phenomenal, like it was such a great set on the ship. I'm sure for those that go to Echo Stage on Friday, that's gonna be a super fun party.
Absolutely. So Saturday, Echo Stages after party. Now, this is the one that I had tied with Funhouse for the weekend for me in terms of what would be the most enjoyable, the most fun. You've got Dreamland After Dark hosting Purple Disco Machine and Dombresky, which I don't know why they have it labeled as Dombresky because we all know that that is 100% going to be a disco dom set. So, um, I just saw Purple Disco Machine here in Denver at Red Rocks. Unbelievably fun show. I was dancing from the first opener all the way until his last song for like 4 straight hours. Just an absolute blast. So I know this will be super fun. What are your thoughts on this one?
It makes perfect sense. I mean, Purple Disco Machine is closing out, I think, Saturday, um, at the same time as Troye Sivan. And we've been to multiple, Purple Disco Machine. Well, I'm sure you've been to multiple Echo Stage, um, with Super Gay. The gays love disco, and they love Purple Disco Machine. Also saw, uh, Also saw him at Cosmic Meadow last year at EDC, and that was like a super great set.
Yeah.
And so it makes perfect sense, and he'll draw a crowd. I People will go see him at the festival and then go see him at the Dreamland party. And I think a lot of people that aren't doing the festival but are looking for an EDM show because there are so many other things to do during Pride that are not that's not this festival. There's the parade, there's the protest march, there's the street festival, there's the concert that's going on that's free. So there's so many there's house parties, there's so many other things. So there's probably a lot of people that are opting not to do the festival because they want to do other things, but they're EDM fans. And so this is an opportunity for them to like, okay, go do the parade on Saturday and maybe a couple of house parties and then rest and then go see Purple Disco Machine at Echo
Yeah.
Stage at night.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's perfect. All right. So for the last party on the list, we've got Echo Stage's closing party on Sunday, June 8th. It's hosted by all caps Meat. God, it's an aggressive
That is
production.
that is a circuit party.
No surprise there.
Yeah.
And we passed by a strip club named Beef. What? Yeah, your hearing is working just fine. Jesus. What goes on there? Pretty intense shit, actually. Here, we'll wreck your life. I'd be like, all right, I believe you.
So I believe you mentioned at least one of these artists when you were talking about some of your favorites. So
Audrey.
yeah, give me your breakdown of the Meat. God, that's aggressive. The Meat closing party at Echo Stage.
Uh, it's probably what you think it is. It's a circuit party. It's gonna be mostly men, shirtless, and it's gonna be circuit music. Yeah, and it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be sweaty. I don't know who Karsten Solers is, but I know Saji, and he's a big name
Yeah.
in the scene.
Well, it sounds like Meat is going to be a delicious buffet, regardless. So,
A delicious buffet of meat.
all right. So with Karma, Brian, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the artists that they've got for the Friday and Saturday parties at Karma. For me personally, I'm not actually even familiar with Karma as a venue. So if you could just explain to me what Karma is as a venue, as well as the folks listening, that would be great.
Is it Karma? I've been there. It's a live music venue. I'm sure they do other
Yep.
things there too, but isn't it like right across the street from Echo Stage?
Is
Uh,
it? That's
Warehouse.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I thought it is Karma DC. I can look it up while we're here. Karma DC. So okay, so Karma is a live music venue. It's like kind of like warehousey. It's like 1 block away across the street from Echo Stage. So
Perfect.
I've been to a couple. It's very nondescript, but yeah. And so the events there, both nights are circuit party events, circuit DJs.
Perfect. And we totally knew that before we started the video. Also, if you're not aware of what a circuit party is at this point, folks, just Google it. Not at work, and definitely in safe mode. Yeah,
That's
just Google it.
that's good sound advice.
I think that's good advice for folks.
Um,
Um, all right, so now rounding out just events for the weekend, I know that there's just a few other events on your list. So if you could just real quickly kind of run through the list of those just to give folks an idea of some of the other things that are happening aside from World Pride.
Yeah, so our conversation has really been focused on like the festival, the World Pride Festival, and like the parties associated with it. But, all of this is in conjunction with the really big event that is happening, which is World Pride, right? So World Pride is like 3 weeks long. It is a celebration of Pride where people from across the world come and celebrate in the city that it's chosen. It's been in New York City. It's been in many other cities. This year's World Pride is in DC. And so you have really cool other events like it's already happened, but there was like a 5K that the DC Frontrunners, which is like a local gay running group, put on. There's Nats Night Out, so the local baseball team, the Nationals, they have their Pride game, which is tomorrow. I'm going to be going to that. You have, concerts that are going on, the gay men's chorus events. You have so many different types of things that World Pride is putting. You have the parade, which is on Saturday. You have a rally and protest march. Um, on Sunday, you have the concert, the free concert, that's happening Saturday, Sunday. I think Cynthia Erivo is headlining on Saturday, Dochi is on Sunday. You have the street festival with all the vendors that you can go to Saturday and Sunday. And then you have all of the gay bars, the gay clubs, you have the straight bars and the straight clubs that are all hosting events. We don't have a lot of large venues in DC, and so we have lots of small venues, and lots of little gay bars, neighborhood bars. So they're all doing small things. They're all doing events to celebrate World Pride. And then you also have like official night parties. And so, I mentioned that I'm not necessarily doing an after party right now. I think Friday night, after the festival, unless something changes. But I think that I was planning on just hanging out with friends and, decompressing from the first day of festival, saving my legs and saving my energy because I will still have Saturday and Sunday to do. And then Saturday I have the festival, and then I'm going to the Fabric of Freedom Kinetic Presents event. That is in partnership with Capital Pride, and so that's at a different venue. I don't think I've ever been to that venue, but there's going to be three different stages that your ticket gets you into, and so I'm doing that. I think that starts at 10. It goes until like 3 or 4 a.m. So that's Saturday night, and then of course Sunday. I'm probably not doing any parties. I'm probably just going to go out and enjoy the street festival and
Yeah.
go to the concert, maybe see Dochi and just kind of spend time with some friends. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much to do in DC, separate or up, like that's different from the World Pride Fest. I know this conversation has been really like centric on the World Pride Festival,
Yeah.
but that's just one thing of many many different celebrations and events that are happening across the city in celebration of Pride of World Pride.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it connects back to, one of our first questions and, why DC for World Pride? And it's because DC has so much to offer when it comes to this weekend. So yeah, I think it's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know we're getting close to the end of our hour here, and I really just kind of want to wrap up with some closing remarks. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is just the role that allies can play within Pride Month. How allies can really support Pride, but then also how allies like myself can support Pride without co-opting the space in any way.
Yeah. So, I think, I've been to many prides, and several different, cities and locations. And I think from my experience, this hasn't really been a huge issue. I think when allies join us for Pride, they know and understand why they're there and why we're there. And they're very conscious about the space that they're in and and the purpose, right? So, celebrating the community, celebrating the fight that has been fought and how far we've come, celebrating gay families and all the charities and all the work and all the organizations that help, gay kids and gay teenagers, and it just the mission, all the different missions that are associated with the gay community. Um, you know, when straight people, when allies, join us, I don't really see them as co-opting because, you're joining in a celebration and you're welcome to join in the celebration. So I think that they're doing a good job. If you're coming out and you're cheering, on the parade and you're being welcoming and you're being friendly and you're joining in the celebration, we're glad you're here, and just be conscious of the mission and the purpose and why we're here and the fight that has been fought and the fight that is yet to come, especially at a time where you know, we have people in power that are actively trying to take rights away and bring us back, far back in some cases, and are actively attacking, people of this community. So if you're coming out and you're enjoying our spaces and celebrating with us, also, understand that we need you here when times are tough. So,
Yeah.
but to answer your question, I think I don't really see much co-opting the space, at least during Pride. Now, if we're talking about just a regular old Saturday night at a gay bar, and a group of 10 women from a bachelorette party walks in, that's a little different, and we can have a conversation about that. But that's not, I think that those types of scenarios don't really apply to like a celebration like Pride, where everybody, allies, even people that just want to learn more about everything that's going on, they're welcome to join in on the events and the celebrations.
Yeah. Perfect. Um, Final thoughts. Just last tips, tricks, advice that you might have for anybody watching to make the most out of their World Pride Fest experience this weekend.
Um, I would say whether you're gay, pan, bi, lesbian, I'm not gonna name them all, but whether you're a part of the community or you're an ally, I think um I'm not really somebody to like give advice, but if I had to, I would say, as a community member, just doesn't matter who you are, just come with an open mind and an open heart, because you're going to meet so many people of different backgrounds, faiths, sexualities, um, genders, sizes, colors, religions, and we are a big tent. And even if you are a white cis straight male, you're welcome here, but come with an open heart and an open mind, and you're gonna meet wonderful people. You're gonna meet people. We're all here to celebrate. We're all here to have a good time. We're all here to kind of honor the past, and prepare for the future, but celebrate and have good vibes all around. And so whether you're out, you know, at just a normal Capital Pride or World Pride event, or you are at the festival, like, come with an open heart, come with an open mind, make friends, and that's when, you never know who you're gonna meet. You're never gonna, um, I have friends that I've met, you being one of them, at festivals, and have stayed friends for a long time. So, I think that's going to happen this weekend for a lot of people, and you're going to make a lot of wonderful memories. And if you come with an open heart and an open mind, you might come out of this with new friendships and new experiences and a different perspective. So that would be my unsolicited, unqualified opinion, for anybody that asks that question of me. Just come with an open heart and open mind, and have a good time.
Well, I think that's extremely well said. I don't think I could wrap it up or provide any better advice myself. So, I think with that, we can go ahead and close out the video. Folks, if you've been watching at home, we, greatly appreciate your time. I think World Pride Fest is going to be an incredibly special weekend for everybody involved. I know it holds a very special place in the hearts of people who hold a very special place in my heart. So I'm just excited for all of my rainbow people to be able to celebrate, to be able to live freely, to be able to love freely this month. I truly wish you all the best of celebrations and just a wonderful Pride Month. So with that, Brian, anything else on your end?
Thanks for having me. I wish you were here,
Absolutely.
buddy.
No, I wish I were there too. I miss you, and we'll have to get you out to Denver very, very soon.
Yes.
Um, all right. So with that said, folks, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe here on YouTube if you want more, and follow along on Instagram at pay_braille for daily posts. Thanks so much for walking. Thanks. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Hi guys, thank you so much for watching. Before I let you go, I just wanted to share an Instagram post that Bryan had sent to me to share with you all. It is a resource shared by the Only Shua on Instagram, so shout out the Only Shua. Really appreciate you sharing this information. I think it's an amazing resource for folks who will be in DC for Pride during the weekend, or really just in DC at all. This is a resource that has contacts for both emergency services as well as folks who need basic necessities while they're in DC for World Pride, or really just in DC at all. So go check out his Instagram post. I will share a link below as well as screenshots to the post in this video, but just wanted to share that with you all before I left. So thank you all for watching. Hope you have a good one and happy Pride.